So Thierry, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership at the Business Engaged Forum. But before we go into the future, can you please tell us a little bit about your own backgrounds? Where did you grow up?
No, absolutely, Dr. Nik. I was born in Cameroon, in the city of Douala. It is the largest city and a coastal city in Cameroon, which is in Central Africa. And I was born in a family, what we call an average size family. So my mother had 7 kids. My parents had 7 kids, mom and dad.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the city of Douala. Growing up, of course, like many Cameroonians, we all dreamed to be the next Roger Milla. So football was a prevailing sport activity. And that was actually my first love. I also play a lot of football in the community, as well as in school, and at some point dreamed of being a footballer.
So,
but obviously, that didn't happen.
If I may, you must have been inspired by Roger Milla, I believe, in 1990.
Absolutely, Roger Milla was our role model, you know, back in the 80s and the 90s. So, growing up, we all wanted to be the next Roger Milla. Evidently, either I wasn't good enough, or so things didn't happen. I found other passion. I was also very influenced by the Catholic Church. I was born and raised in the Catholic faith in the city of Douala by my parents. There was just something that made me think that I could also become a priest. And as I got close to Catholic priests, especially in the community where I grew up with Jesuit priests, one thing that really stimulated me was their focus on the academia. You know, many of those that I met, they were expert in all sorts of sciences and all sorts of things, astrology, philosophy, and all of these things. I always find some stimulation in becoming a priest just because of the love for that. And also growing up, I was in a very poor family. And most of the Jesuit priests I met, they traveled to different countries, attended university around the world. And to me, at one point, I thought that I would become one of them. So evidently, that didn't happen also, of course, because as I grew up, I found other interests. Somehow, I wind up going to the Cameroon best and most competitive engineering school. There at the University of Yaoundé, so the National Higher School of Engineering, where I studied mechanical engineering and completed my bachelor's and my master's degree there.
And I believe you then later on went on to study at Indiana University, and you were very active, the chair of the Diversity Council, member of the Consulting Academy. Can you tell us a little bit more about your time at the Kelley School of Business?
Oh, yeah. Oh, thanks for bringing that up. So after my degree in mechanical engineering, I started as a field engineer, worked for about 3 years in Cameroon, mostly in oil and gas industry, like many young engineers in West Africa, but quickly moved to North America, first in Toronto, where I was doing a lot of engineering contract and consulting work. And at one point in my career, I wanted to be a business leader, so I realized finance was the real language of business. As an engineer, I could understand it. I was good in quantitative, analysis and all that, but I wanted a formal business study. So went to a business school and in Kelley School of Business in Indiana University. I want to say that the first criteria that drew me at Kelley was just the beautiful campus. I visited a number of schools in the US, but the campus at Indiana University was just completely mesmerizing. But also, it was a top-ranked program. It was among the top 15 programs in the US. And some of the organization of the program was very attractive to me. My goal was to go to management consulting after business school, and they have a consulting academy, which was basically a group of a faculty structured a team that was run by strategic management teachers and finance teachers who were equipping students precisely with the skills needed to go and become management consultant. And during that process, you will have an academy intensive week, 3 academy intensive week that were opportunity to go do real consulting work with some firms. So that's how I had an opportunity to do some work for Deloitte, strategy and operations in their Chicago office, do a project there for during one of the academic intensive week, and for Ernst & Young, also in the Chicago office. Those 2 experiences really, encouraged me to pursue a career in consulting. However, as I was graduating in the, you may remember, in the fall of 2000 and summer of 2008, with the world financial crash bringing the crisis, the financial crisis, bringing the world economy down, many firms kind of, especially in the consulting, there was a big dynamic and things were changing. So at that time, I had also had an internship with Cummins in their corporate strategy team, and came to learn and be attracted to that company because of their values and their history, some of the things they were talking about, the intention to invest in Africa, but also the nature of the work that I was doing in the corporate strategy team, which was basically what you do in a consulting firm without the volume of travel that you will do if you were working for a pure play consulting firm. So that's how, from the business school in the consulting academy, as I majored in finance and strategy, so I pivoted to join Cummins after graduation in the corporate strategy group, where I work on a big number of projects, a whole host of projects for the company senior leaders.
So in your early days, Thierry, who inspired you?
As I started my career, obviously, as an engineer, I went to engineering because I was good at science, technology. I needed a paycheck. Engineering was a career where you will find a job, definitely in West Africa in my time. And that went very quickly. So I didn't really have big ambition, career ambition. It was when I joined Cummins, quite frankly. I was fortunate to work for some really smart leaders. Our current CEO, who is also my leadership role model, one of my strongest role model as a leader. So very smart, seeing how you could be a leader who leads with courage, but also who lead with care. And working close to people like that really just inspired me to aim for the stars, as you put it here, Dr. Nik.
Right.
So just seeing how people think very deeply on very complex problems with a very broad view, considering a wide array of possibilities and zooming down to what matters, not just for the shareholder, but also for all the stakeholders across, including suppliers, employees, community, and all that. So those things at Cummins really hooked me. And working close to leaders like Tom Lineberger, but all others, Tony Satterthwaite, Tad Ewald, who were the leaders that I was fortunate to work for earlier, kind of inspired me and pushed me to want to be like them. And I noticed that has really been a culture at Cummins. And as I also heard of the stories of historical leaders at Cummins, people like J. Irwin Millers, and more recently, Tim Salso, all of them truly visionary leaders who were in their time just not side with what was popular, but what they thought was right, and kind of gearing the company towards those big ambitions stance and taking position that could be at times controversial, but that were rooted in their core values. And that is the tradition of leadership at Cummins that has also inspired me and pushed me to want to be, to want to continue in that journey with the opportunity to do the same in the continent of Africa and the Middle East.
Now, Thierry, you're also a great advocate for diversity and a member of the 30% Club. Can you tell us a little bit about your role in the 30% Club and in Business Engage?
Yes. No, thanks for the question. First of all, diversity and inclusion at Cummins is a core value. So it means it is a big part of who we are and how we we want to execute our mission, you know, so what we would like to do, the reason why we exist and what we would like to achieve, how we do that is through our core values, so diversity and inclusion. And for me, as a leader of Cummins in Africa and the Middle East, a continent where, quite frankly, on equality, gender equality is truly still an aspiration, where either for social, political, or cultural reason, there is still a lot of setback, you know, for the female gender. And there are all sorts of, you know, equality issues, but the gender equality is a particular one that, to me, needs to be prioritized. So joining the 30% club was really just, to me, I think it's for selfish reason. I personally believe that, you know, so the world needs to be more equal. You know, the female population, the business case for diversity, especially for gender inclusion, is overwhelming. So as a business leader who look at business case to make decisions, it's an obvious thing, it's an obvious selfish thing for business to be more inclusive. Second is one of personal values. I was raised by my single mom after my dad passed away when I was just 12. And seeing my mom work so hard and thrive to raise 7 kids, you know, sometimes facing a lot of injustices just due to unequal societies and unequal rules, either formal or informal, you know, so just kind of pushed me to think that this isn't right and that is important for us as people in position of leadership, because leadership to me is a privilege to really drive a different future. And the third reason, still in the personal value standpoint for me, is I'm a father of 3 daughters, you know, and a husband of an equally educated wife who have experienced, you know, personal setback throughout her career for the mere fact of being a woman. And so it is my central duty to make sure that I contribute in inspiring young women through the 30% club, and help them gain the confidence and create an environment where they can really bring their potential and push and pursue their dreams, so that tomorrow, when my daughters, some 10 years, 20 years from now, are entering the workplace, that they don't limit what they can do just because they are women. So that's really my motivation. That is why I am a member of that club, and that's why I'm ready to fight very hard to create a more inclusive environment in the workplace and in the boardrooms.
And Thierry, tell us, looking back over your career, what would you say was a major turning point? Or maybe turning points?
Yes, there's been a few, but the biggest one for me was when Cummins gave me the opportunity to return to Africa after almost 15 years in North America, and coming back to Africa in a general management role. By now, Dr. Nik, I've visited at least 42 to 45 countries in Africa, and just seeing the huge potential, the huge opportunities that exist in Africa. You know, chief of them being its human resources, its people, a bubbly and very young population, and mostly underutilized, especially when it comes to female population. And coming here to set up Cummins businesses in a number of countries, starting in West Africa, I just realized, oh wow, what an opportunity. You know, if we get this right, if we create an environment where we could hire people, where women will prefer to join Cummins, this will be a strategic advantage. You know, it feels to me that this is the potentiality was huge. Just you look at graduate rate in most universities in Africa. In South Africa, it's no different. Female young girls have the higher percentage of people graduating in university in most countries in this continent. And guess what? We don't know that sometimes. And so just and to be honest with you, this vary. It used to be that you don't find women in engineering or in finance. That is simply not true. If you really look, you will see that today there is abundance of graduates that come out of college who are young female with good dreams, except that the society has shaped the workplace and the boardroom so in a way that have made them to choose that, oh no, maybe I can't go to, you know, an engine making company. Maybe it's a male dominated environment. Maybe when we visit this customer, you will not see a woman in a mine site, so kind of, supervising, truck operation on all these things. So I think the breakthrough for me was returning to Africa and traveling to different countries to just see just the sheer volume of up and coming, graduate from university, and seeing that in also families. Our countries are moving to more urban social setup, where in Casablanca as well as in Douala, or in Dakar as well as in Nairobi, you'll see young girls growing in the same condition as female, and in family these conversations are happening. And I just think that by the time they graduate, if we offer them a possibility to be in an environment where they feel comfortable and on equal footing, we'll see a more accelerated inclusion in the workplace. So that was my breakthrough, just coming back to Africa, feeling home everywhere, and seeing the sheer and the vibrance of all these young graduates, and seeing how we could harness that as business leader to kind of reshape, the way the business, boardroom looks.
So Thierry, can you tell us what is driving you today?
Sorry, could you please repeat that, Dr. Nik?
Yes, I was saying, what is driving you today?
Mm-hmm. So what drives me today?
Yeah.
Fighting for a more just, a more fair and a more equal world, to be honest with you. I believe in the social elevation. I believe that education is the bridge out of poverty. And my experience, as well as those of that of many people that I have met, especially in Africa, but quite frankly, in North America, I've lived and worked in many countries, have confirmed that to me. So what drives me is my ability to be in the privileged position of leadership and contribute to fighting for a more just, a fairer, and more inclusive world.
Right. And Thierry, looking into the future, what does the future of leadership, and especially board leadership, mean to you?
Yes, I think the future is the board of tomorrow will not look like the board of today. I believe that the board of tomorrow should mimic the composition of the population as we strive for more inclusion. I think companies that will be more inclusive will be the company that will be more successful, just because it's very clearly demonstrated in the business case for diversity. So companies that will be more inclusive will be able to anticipate better the challenges that will allow them to be more sustainable. And that's just a very strong hypothesis that I see. And to be honest with you, I believe that more companies understand that today, even though they may not be making the progress at the same pace. So I see the future of board being a more inclusive board where more diverse views are analyzed when considering solving problems. And those that will be able, I'll be the first to bring that diversity around the table, will get the best solution, and will be more successful and therefore more sustainable.
And Thierry, what have you learned from your own journey, your own leadership journey, that you consider most important for building future leaders?
Yes, to me, it's fundamental to find your purpose, Dr. Nik.
Yeah.
So you need to really define that purpose and really making sure that you zero in on it as clear as possible. Your leadership purpose is that single thing that resonates for you. What are you on this earth for? And if you find that purpose and also find your core values and personal core value, so which is basically what drives what's the compass in which you operate. And if you align everything that you do to those values and that purpose, you will find deep strength and extreme motivation in everything you do, whether in your career or in your community or in your family. So for leaders, I believe that the biggest learning from my journey has been to be able to zero in on that purpose of mine and to ensure that my values are very clear, because I will not be working for a company if I feel like my values are not aligned with those of that company, because I will not find a deep strength, the inner strength in me and the motivation to be able to deal with the complex issues that business leadership require you to deal with.
Now, Thierry, when you speak to aspiring leaders, what is it that you tell them about social media? How should they handle social media to build their own leadership brand?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, Dr. Nik. You know, the world is moving very fast. You know, I'm not sure what generation you are in, but I'm in my mid-40 now, at age 45. You know, the world in 2020 is very different than what it was in just 2000, and also very different than what it was in I don't know, in 1990. So the world moved very fast. Today, information circulate extremely fastly. And with social media, it's a huge opportunity and a good platform. I think growing leaders should think about it themselves first as a brand, and think about all these social media platforms as opportunity to strengthen their brands, because everything you do or everything you say will affect that brand value of yours. You know, so as you take position on issues, public issues, you should know that people will think about you based on your opinion on those things. And so use that as canvas and as opportunity to structure that brand of yours. Absolutely.
And Thierry, what is your advice for future leaders? What are the biggest challenges they can expect to encounter in their career?
Yeah. No, this one is also another good question, Dr. Nik. I think what they need to get comfortable with is change. The only thing permanent is change, and this is true today. This has always been true. The only thing is that in this generation, that change is happening very fast. And so they need to know that change is happening and change is going to continue to happen. And the world today is a global village. So standards are more global than ever. And so is competition. So there is no reason that you know, you will aspire to lower standard in Angola than somebody in your same function in, I don't know, in Japan or maybe in Iceland. So competition is also going to be more global. You know, for the same role, if you are working in South Africa as a design engineer, you know, you don't need to be in South Africa to provide the best design. There will be engineers in India who could do the same design in an office in India. And companies are more and more looking for where they could get the best people, the best talent for the best output at the lowest cost. So we need to understand that these are the dynamics at play. And we need to also be permanent learners, because the change is moving so fast. We need to be able to learn. If you are not good at something, and that thing is is critical for your field of operation, for your function or your career aspiration, get good at it. And you could get good at it by educating yourself. Today, there is good opportunity for people to learn, either through online learning. There are lots of MOOCs, like, you know, online university, or, you know, ways to get access to continuous education so that you could continue to upskill yourself. You know, nothing is permanent, no functions, nothing is traditional. And leaders today need to know that that's the big challenge. You know, competition is very fluid, and the world is the global village.
Right. And Thierry, if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are some of the new skills that you would want to factor in?
Yeah, no, that's a big one. If you talk of leaders, to me, when you are a leader, it is a lot less about what you can do than about how you do what you do. And basically, the biggest key for a leader, for any leader, is his ability to extract the best out of people. Because no matter how smart or how strong or how tall or how big you are, what you could do by yourself will always be limited. But if you could, you know, get good at extracting the best value out of a multiple number, so there is a multiplying effect in your ability to achieve big things. And so to be able to do this, you just need to strive to be an authentic leader, you know. So and being an authentic leader is touch on some of the things I mentioned before. So which is basically finding your purpose and striving to achieve your purpose, you know, living your values, communicating in a way that inspire people, being authentic and building trust. And only by building this trust will you build followership, and would you get people to get the best value out of people. So a huge element of that curriculum will have to include how do you communicate in a way that is inspiring, and how do you build followership, and how do you show up as a leader that is authentic.
Now, Thierry, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Oh yeah, I've mentored a lot. I mean, over the last 10 years, and a lot of my mentees have successfully achieved like career change. You know, just sometimes following my example to move from pure engineering work and aspiration to more of business leadership roles or things like that. Or maybe to move from a functional role to more of a general management track. And the key to what I tell these mentees, obviously, is not becoming a general manager or switching career is not everyone's cup of tea. But to do that, what I tell my mentors, or several of my mentors that have successfully operated these career switches or career changes, it is, number one, to believe in yourself. You know, so no matter how big people you watch, you know, how much those you watch are solid, you will not become solid because your role model is solid or achieve big things. You need to believe in yourself. And if you believe in yourself, you need to set yourself higher ends, higher goals. You know, you need to stretch yourself. We are always equipped. We are never tested beyond our ability, to be honest with you. So if you really set your mind and your heart on any challenge, you will figure it out. So set yourself, you know, stretch aims, stretch goals, believe in yourself, and then be willing to learn. As I said earlier, you know, there is, if you are not good at something, get good at it, you know, and to get good at things, you need to learn, apply yourself, have self-discipline, and you need to love to learn. You know, you need to be intellectually curious and be a good person, in a sense that you're always being vulnerable. People will follow you and be inspired by you if you are authentic and being vulnerable. So those are the advice that I have given to several mentors, and those that were able to follow these things and to apply them are those that have most likely, you know, operated spectacular change and are successful in their career.
And Thierry, who are the role models of leadership that you would recommend future leaders should follow and learn from?
Yeah, this one is a tricky one, Dr. Nik, because I myself, I don't have one person that I ever thought, hey, I want to be fully like this person. You know, so as I set my own life purpose, I realized that there were a number of people that inspire me in many different ways, and that I wanted to learn something or copy something from each of them. You know, and they vary from, you know, a wide range of fields, like from political to business to even, you know, spiritual and religious angle. So I have, as I mentioned, in the business spectrum, a leader that I have the deepest respect for, who's my role model, is Tom Lineberger, the CEO of Cummins. And I've been fortunate to learn a ton from him and to see just how he blends, he demonstrates that powerful blend of caring and courageous leadership. You know, I've also come to admire people like Steve Jobs, just from the strength of imagination and innovation, and just their ability to take things to the next level. So every time that you feel like they have reached the nirvana, so they come up with something else. You know, just pushing yourself through that innovative spirit. You know, so I've been inspired by late Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. And more close to home here on the continent of Africa, business leaders like Aliko Dangote are a big inspiration to me, just in their ability to believe in Africa from home, you know, because as you may know, the African economy, most of our African economy are extractive economies, you know, whether it's mineral resources in Southern Africa or maybe oil and gas in West or Northern Africa. So we extract and we export crude oil or what have you. But to see people like Aliko Dangote build, you know, a large conglomerate on the continent in the consumer goods and in, you know, finding opportunity and penetrating market that typically other African will not want to play in and will leave just the terrain to bigger multinationals to come in has been inspiring. Just that courage and that trust, that belief in the continent of Africa and doing what it takes to be successful, writing, not following the paved ways and kind of paving its own way, you know, to do business successfully and ethically in the continent. On the political spectrum, you could also, I could mention also another few. I mean, I don't like to be controversial or to get, you know, to take strict position, but, you know, when I traveled to, as I said, you know, more than 40 countries in Africa, but seeing how leaders have transformed their countries, leaders like Paul Kagame, for instance, in Africa, or Sheikh Mohammed in the United Arab Emirates, you know, by being visionary, setting a vision and executing in that vision, that can transform very radically the place from a status to a completely different status. That has been inspiring to me, and I wish we could see more of this in the continent of Africa. So all those people have inspired me in different ways, and I advise everyone for leaders as they think of role models to really, a role model, you need to have, what are those traits that you like to resemble this role model in? And once you've defined those traits, you could be fortunate and find that in one single person, but if you are curious enough, you may see that there are a number of people that you could learn different things from.
So Thierry, how can our listeners connect with you and where should they follow you?
Yeah, so well, I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. So I have a LinkedIn account. If you just type my name, my profile will come up. And occasionally I share my views or I share articles that I find of great interest or opinions that I find of great interest. I'm also on Twitter, but not as active. For some reason, I am very, very busy inside Cummins. I'm not so much in the public forums outside of our organization. I do a lot of engagement in forums like, you know, the 30% Club, but these are just more concise forum where I have a target audience of young professional women that I hope I can inspire. So yes, on LinkedIn, I'm pretty reachable. On Twitter, not as much as on LinkedIn. I'm also active in some forum, like in Facebook, mostly on political views in discussion on matters at home, in my home country, in Cameroon, and other social issues. But to be honest, Dr. Nik, I don't have a lot of time to engage into debate on public forums. You know, I do that pretty seldom. It's pretty seldom for me to engage into those.
And last but not least, Thierry, is there one piece of advice that you would really like to convey to future leaders that they should implement in their own leadership and in their own life?
Yeah, to me, it's simple. Just try for authenticity. Just be an authentic leader, you know. So you just need to converge. The you that you are today, the you want to be, and the you that is perceived by others should be the one single person. That is when you have achieved authentic leadership. So if you strive for authenticity, I'm sure that it will resonate. It will appear into everything you do, whether your career, your family, or your community life. So that's the one thing I will encourage growing leaders to think about.
Well, thank you so much, Thierry, for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership. and showing us the way how to build a better future.
Thank you. You are very welcome, Dr. Nik, and thank you very much for the opportunity.